sometimes when you're processing markup, like XML or HTML, you don't want to build a parser that just runs through the document one line at a time. What you'll need to do is have the entire document in memory so you can manipulate it. In other words, you'll operate on the document's object model, or DOM. In this example, we'll see how to use the XML mini-DOM class that Python provides to load an XML file and then operate on the document while it's in memory. So let's open up the XML parsing start file. And the first thing I'm going to do is import the module that lets me operate on an XML DOM. So I'm going to import xml.dom.minidom. And the XML file I'm going to be parsing is this one right here. This is sample XML, and if you open it up and look at it, you can see it's a pretty standard XML file. It's just got some basic information about a person in it. So here's my name, where I live, some skills that I have. Again, just simple XML file for demonstrating parsing. So let's go back to the code. So in my main function, I'm going to use the parse function on the XML mini-DOM to load and parse the file. So I'll make a variable called doc, and I'll call xml.dom.minidom.parse. And to the parse function, I'm going to pass that file, sample.xml.xml. So this will parse the XML file and create an in-memory DOM object that I can manipulate. And because the name of the file that I want to parse happens to be in the same directory as my code, I don't have to do any fancy path manipulation. So once we've parsed the document, let's print out the name of the root of the document. So that's going to be node name on the document element, along with the tag name of the first child of the document. So that'll be doc.firstchild.tagname. Now, if these property names don't look familiar to you, they're standard names that are used in the document object model. Things like node name and first child and tag name, these are all standard properties of DOM elements. So let's just save and run what we have. And you can see that the node name of the doc is hashtag document, which is just like the W3C specs as it should be. And the first child tag in the document, the tag name of that is person. And if you look, sure enough, that's the first tag that's in the document. So far, we're off to a good start. So let's go ahead and close this terminal. So now we're going to get a list of XML tags from the document and print each one. So I'm going to use the DOM standard function called getElements by tag name. So I'll name this variable skills, and I'll call doc.getElements by tag name. And I'm going to get all the skill tags. Again, if you look at XML, that's going to be these tags right here. So I'll get all of those skill tags, and then I'm going to print out, let's see, I'll print out skills.length, skills are listed. All right, and I'll print out each one of the skills. So I'll write for skill in skills. Let's print out skill.getAttribute, and I'm going to get the name attribute. So again, if we go back to the XML, you can see that each one of these skill tags has a name attribute and has a value. So I'm going to loop over each one of the skill tags, get the attribute called name, and print out its value. All right, so let's go ahead and save this, and then let's run it. All right, so there's 4 skills listed, so that seems to be working, and there they are, JavaScript, Python, C#, and HTML. Okay, so looks like, again, everything seems to be working. Let's close this terminal. So let's do one more thing. Let's create a new XML tag and add it into the document. So I'll create a new tag, and I'll have a variable called newSkill, and I'm going to call the createElement function on the document, and I'm going to create a new skill element, and on that new skill, I'm going to call setAttribute, and I'm going to set the name attribute to another skill that I have. Let's do jQuery. And then I'm going to tell the document to tell its first child element, that's the person tag, to append a new child inside of itself, and that's going to be my new skill tag. So createElement is a standard W3C function which creates a new tag, and then I'm creating that new tag, and I'm sending the name attribute to be jQuery, and then I'm going to append this new skill tag into the first child of the document, which remember is this person tag. So the new skill tag is going to appear in the document below this one. And then we'll print out a listing of the skills before the new one is added, and then we'll print out the list after it's added to make sure everything works. So let's do this again. So I'm going to copy this, and paste this down here. So let's go ahead and save, and let's run. All right, and I'll make this a little bit bigger. So we can see that there's 4 skills listed, right? So JavaScript, Python, C#, HTML, and then I add the new tag, and no, I made a mistake. I have to actually get the elements by tag name again. So let's also copy those 2 lines and paste them there. All right, so now let's go ahead and run this again. All right. Okay, so now we see that this time it worked. So it's a bit bigger. You see that there's 4 skills listed, and then there's 5 skills listed because jQuery has now been added at the bottom. So that should give you an idea of how you can use the DOM in Python to manipulate structured markup like XML in memory.